Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So in this video we are going to create this simple loan interest payment calculator. This is a very simple calculator which will help you determine the monthly payments on loans. So you would simply enter the loan amount, the loan term in years. So basically the loan term in years is the same here. So 4 years is equal to 48 months. So basically these are in sync. If I change this, it's going to change the months. So we have the loan term in years and loan term in months, and then this is also the interest rate per year. So let's say you go for a loan amount of this and you are supposed to pay in 4 years, which is the same as 48 months, and this is the interest rate on the loan. So you click on calculate and then it's going to calculate the monthly payment for you. So this is how much you're going to be paying monthly. So from here you see the principal amount, which is the amount you took, the interest rate, which is based on the loan terms, and then the interest rate, that is the total interest to pay. So the total amount you're going to be paying at the end of the day is going to be the interest, the total interest, and then the total principal amount. It's going to give you the total amount you're going to be paying, and based on that we are going to be calculating the monthly payment here. Right. So let's say I took 8,000. I can change the currency as well, and notice that when I change the currency it changes here as well. And I'm supposed to pay in 3 years, which is the same as 36 months. This time the interest rate is 6%, so I click on calculate and it's going to calculate for me. So the total amount I took is this. The interest I'm going to be paying at the end of the day is this. So the total amount together, this and this, and then this is the monthly payment overall. So if I change the loan terms to success and I click calculate, then it's going to calculate based on the loan terms for me. So it's a very simple calculator, loan payment calculator, but it is going to help you learn some concepts like React Context API and use states and some others. So as I mentioned, this is a React application and I'm using VS Code to as my text editor to create this app. So you can use any text editor you want. Your preferred one, it's still going to be the same. But as you can see here, I just have the raw layout here with no styling. So we are going to go through the styling, and then we actually do the actual calculations, right? So let's see the components I have here. So this is the app.tsx file. So I'm using a TypeScript React. So basically I want to be able to have like type definitions. That's why I'm using TypeScript. But here you would notice that there is the header section, which is showing the loan payment calculator. There's the main section here, which has 2 sections. This one is just about the details of the application. Just some info about the loan payment calculator app. And then there is 2 more components here, which is the form and then the results, basically. So where you fill the information, and then when you click calculate, where it shows the results of the monthly payment is the results component. And these components are created here. So we have the form component, we have the header component, and then we have the results component as well. So I'm going to be using React Context API to manage my global state. So basically I want to be able to share one state across multiple components. I don't want to be passing props through components. That is why I'm using React Context API. So if you don't know React Context API, yeah, maybe you would understand it from this tutorial. So let's look at the CSS files I have as well. So I have one for the form. I will be going through the styles whilst we are adding the classes to enable the styles on these, but um, I'll also link the styles, and I mean the whole source code, in the description, so you can actually check out and copy the styles and add them if you want to use the same styles as I am using. And then I have one for the results as well, and then these are the one in the index.css, in the default one which comes with React, create React app. And then I also have these few styles here for the various sections and columns, and also some few styles for making it responsive on smaller devices. So let's start from the header and begin to style the header. So basically I'm going to add one class here. So the class name is going to be called header, and notice once I add the class name, it is going to add this like background, green background, and then also yeah, make the text white. So if I go to app.css and then check the header, so you'd see that the font size is 20 pixels, font weight, the background is here, and then the color is here, and I'm giving some few patterns and margins as well. So that is going to be my header, and then the next component is going to be the app.tsx. So if I try to close all this and then I open the app.tsx file, which is this one, we've already styled the header, so I'm going to add some few classes to the information at the top as well. So the first class name I'm going to add is for this div. So I call it info, just to give it some space at the top here. But I also have some classes for this, so I just want to highlight the simple interest loan payment calculator, just for you to see that, I mean, this is what the application is about. So I am going to call the class, add a class which is called highlight, just like this. It's going to make it bold, and then that is basically it for the info section here. Now for the main section, this is the entire row, so I'm going to say class row. So this is going to make sure that it sets the display to flex, so that these ones can be side by side. And then this is the first column and this is the second column, right? So I'm going to add a class name, so they are all going to have a common class name called call, and then each of them is going to have their separate class name as well. So the first one is going to be call 1, and then this is going to be the column 2. So when I save it, you notice that the background for this has changed, as well as like the patterns on the columns. So those are the classes I'm going to have here. If I show you the classes here, as I mentioned already, so the rule is setting the display to flex and giving it a fixed width with some border. I have to disable the height, I don't need this one, and then some margin, as well as setting the box size into border box. And this is the column, giving it a padding, and then the width 50% for each one. And then you notice that where I added the media queries, the column is going to now be set the width to 100%, which is going to make sure it comes down. So if I try to shrink this, it's going to be on, like, one is going to be at the top and one is going to be at the bottom, so that it will be like responsive on smaller devices. Alright, so that's going to be the styling for the parent layout. I'm going to save this one, close the app.tsx for now, and then the next one is going to be the form. So now we're going to start styling the forms. So this is why I have my currency. You can add more currencies as you wish here, but I'll keep it this for. And then I'm going to be adding the classes, right? So the parent div is going to have a class. Now don't intend to add it here. So the parent div is going to have a class called form, because that's a parent div. And then based on that, if I also open the form CSS, see I'm styling the various items on the form. So yeah, I need a form class there. Right. And then the second one, which is going to be this is going to have a class name called form item. So it is the first form item, and then the second class name is going to be the loan amount. And notice that we are beginning to get this. I'm going to add the other classes for the other items as well. So if I go down here, I'm going to have another class name, and this is going to be form item as well, because this is a second form item. These are all different form items, so I'm going to add them as one. So this, yeah, these ones. So class name form item, right? And then the div for this button will be calculate. The actual button is going to have the calculate btn, yeah, to make it look like this. Yeah, so those are the classes I need on this input to style it like this. I would go to the results component as well. Right. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is to add some placeholders, right? So this is going to be where the currency is going to be. So when you look at the results section here, where we have the monthly payment, this is where the currency is going to be. So at the end, for now, I'm going to put a $sign there, and I'm going to put some value here as well, 180, just to have some placeholders here. Right. And then we are now going to start adding the classes. This is going to have a class called results, yeah, with us. And then I'm going to have the first item, second item, third one, and then the fourth one. These are all going to have results item class. Total amount to pay would have an extra class name called total amount. So if I save it, I should see this one changed. That's coming from this extra class. So once again, I can open the results style, and then this is the style for it. So making the font width bold, and then the color green. Yeah, just sticking with this color scheme. So I will close this, and then the next thing I am going to do, so is to add the classes for these ones as well. So this is gonna have a class name called monthly payment, and then the div of the that So this is where the amount is going to be, together with the currency, right? So I'm gonna call the class name amount. This is going to be the currency, that is the amount currency, and then this is the actual value. So value. So if I save it, it is going to, so this class, actually this class is supposed to be here, not here. Alright, so now that the styling is done, actually looks like all the styling is done. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a model. So I would have a model file where I'm going to add my type definitions. So model.tsx, and inside the model.tsx I'm going to create some types. They are basically going to be interfaces. So I'll create 3 interfaces that I'm going to be using. So I'll export them. So the first one is going to be called iValues. The next interface is going to be the state. So the state is actually the values that are going to come from here. So these ones are the values I use from here to calculate these values, but the values that are going to be stored in this state is what I'm going to be creating the interface for. So export interface state, and then I would also create the last interface for my context that I'm going to be creating after this. So I call it iContext, and then if you've used like React context before, basically contains 2 things: the state and then a dispatch event, right? So you have the state, which is the actual state storing the values, and then the action, which is going to dispatch some actions to the state, right? Yeah, so this is going to be the type for my dispatch. So I'll save these, and these are going to be the model. These are going to be the model I'm going to be using. So the next thing I'm going to do is to set up the context, right? So I'm going to create a context file as well. So my context.tsx, and basically I'm going to have just going to have about 3 lines in this file, right? Just to set up the context. I'm not going to do any complex stuff in this file. So the first thing I need to do is to import some stuff. So I'm going to be importing create context from React. So this is what I need, and I can export my context by saying export constant. I'll call it app context, which is going to be an instance of create context. And then because I'm using TypeScript, I want to provide a type right here. So I would say the type is iContext, which I created, and it's imported from model, and I would have to set a default context value, but I'll set the right values in my app.tsx where I actually manage the state. So here I'm just going to say null as any, just to make sure like my context is being validated. So this is all there is to it in this particular file. I'm going to close it. I'm going to close this file. I'm going to open app.tsx, and there is where I'm going to actually use the context, right? So the only 2 components I need them to access stuff on the context or in my state is these 2 components. So this means I can wrap my context around this section, right? This part of the application doesn't need anything from the context. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my app context component here. I'm going to wrap it around this section, and then I'll do the provider and then the one required prop you have to pass is the value, right? And I'm going to be passing the state and the dispatch, which I'm going to create up here. So the state is going to be my state, and then the dispatch is going to be the set state action, which is going to like change the state, or yeah, update the state actually. So with this, I'm going to use a use states hook to just do it, because it is a very simple application. So I don't want to create a complex state using maybe use reducer or anything like that. I'll just use a use state, sorry, to manage my states. So I'm going to say use state, and then I want to generate that, and I need to make sure that I'm passing the correct initial state, but this is where I'm going to call it dispatch instead of set state. I'm going to call it dispatch, and I am going to create the default states or the initial state up here, just to have some initial values in there. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say constant initial state, which is of type iState, and the initial state is expecting the principal amount. I'm going to say 0 for now. The interest amount as well, it's going to be 0. The total amount is also going to be 0. The monthly payment is going to be 0, and then the currency, which is the last one, oh, I need to bring my comma here. So the currency, I'm going to make it the dollar symbol for now. So I'll save this, and that is going to be my initial state. So now let's start using the values from the states to populate these here, so that when we update, we would also get the updated values. So how do we use it? First of all, we want to go to the results component, and then in here we want to use the context. So we use the use context hook to be able to like use the values from the global state, that is the context, React Context API. So we will just say const, and then I'm going to destructure the state, which I'm going to do in a second. Use context, so, and then I would have to import, then I would have to import the context. So I'm going to import it from React, and this is where I have to pass my actual context, which is called app context. Right. And because I am using TypeScript, I'll get an IntelliSense. So there is the state here, and there is also the dispatch, but in this component I'm only going to be using the state. I wouldn't need to dispatch anything from this particular component. Okay, so yeah, this means I cannot replace these values with the actual values from the state. So the first one, which is going to be the principal amount, first of all I want to replace all these currency symbols. I'll just do Control D to copy all these currency symbols, and then I will replace it with state dot currency here for all, and then this one is going to be the principal amount, so it's going to be state dot the principal amount, and I'm going to have similar for like the others as well. So this is going to be the interest amount. The next one is going to be the total amount, right? So here I'll paste this as well, and I'll say total amount, and then this one is going to be the monthly payment. Alright, so state dot monthly payment. So if I save it, right now we have our actual values because we set it to 0 for like all the initial values. That's what we are seeing here, and we also see the currency for them, which is a good sign. The final thing I want to do in this file, I want to create a number formatter function here, and I'll tell you what it's going to do. So I'll call it get formatted number. It's going to be an arrow function. Let me bring this one here, and it is going to actually return a string. So let me add a type string. And what this get formatted number is going to do is it is actually going to format the all my amounts, so that if we have like decimal values, I just want to round it to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to be using this get formatted number to format all my values in case we have like decimal values, which with money you are definitely going to have. So the value is what I'm going to pass here. Value is going to be a number. It's going to be like the values that have been passed here, and what it is going to return, it is going to return value dot to local string. I would have to pass the undefined first, and then the config I have to pass is say maximum fraction digits is 2. So just format it to 2 decimal places. And then I would wrap all my currencies with around this. So basically going to be this, and then I would pass the values as the parameter. I need it for this as well, and I need it for this and this. Right, and I have to close this one and close this one as well. Right. So when I save it, it shouldn't change because we have like actual values. But if I have something like 200 point something like this, it's going to round it to 2 decimal places, right? Which is good. Let me do undo. So that is what the result file is going to do, everything. So yeah, we are done with this particular file. We are going to now focus on the form where we actually get the values here and then dispatch it into the state, do the calculations, dispatch it into the state, and then it's going to reflect here. Right. So you'd notice I have some functions here inside this component. Alright, so some of these functions are going to handle different things, but first of all we are going to be using the context as well, because we need a dispatch handler on the context, and we also need the state. So now I have the state, I also have the dispatch. I can now use the state and then the dispatch inside this function. So I need like state to manage values coming from all these forms. So this one is going to be the principal amount, the loan term in years, the loan term in months, and then the interest rate. So I'm going to create a use state for all these. So I'll generate the first one. I'll actually copy and paste it 4 times. This is going to be the principal. I would also add some default values, right? So the principal amount, the default value, I'm going to say 500. I'm going to say 4 for this one. going to say 48, and I'm going to say 6.5 for these ones. And I have to make sure that I'm validating the states by adding the types as well. They're all going to be numbers. So let me just add more type here, number. So I need to update this one as well. Set the principal, and I need to change this to uppercase. So let me save it. At the moment it's not going to do anything, but I'm now going to link these state values with the inputs. Alright, so with all these inputs. So yeah, I'm gonna start from here. So this inputs the loan amount. I'm going to have value and unchanged. So the value is going to be the principal, and then I'm going to have an unchanged. The unchanged is going to set the principal with e dot target. So I have to pass the e here first. Then I say e dot target dot value. Okay, so there is an error here. What is wrong? Okay, I think I am having an extra curly brace here. So set principal, and I have to make sure that I am passing this as a number by wrapping this a number like this. Right. So that's what I am going to be doing for all. So actually I'll copy these two props, and then I'll pass it for all these inputs. Pass that here, and then pass that here. Then let me go through and change it. So when I save it, you'd now see that we have like actual values in here. If I change it, they are able to change, and they are being synced with the states. So yeah, good sign. So now let's implement this. So when we change this, we want to make sure like it is changing here, and we want to also set the initial value to the initial value we have in the state. On this select, we can set a value as well to state dot currency. So just say state dot currency like this. When I save it, it's not gonna change, but it's not gonna change because we don't have any unchanged event, right? So yeah, I mean we have the default value there, which means we need to also add an unchanged event, and here is where we are going to actually dispatch this value we select here into the state, right? That is a global state. So we are going to be using this dispatch, and notice that this dispatch is actually just a set state event handler. Basically, if I hover my mouse on it, because I have a TypeScript, I see the IntelliSense that the type is a set state action of type iState, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'd say unchanged, and then I am going to call my dispatch. And first of all, I would need my previous states. Because the state is an object, I want to keep like all the items on it and only change the currency. Right. So I would say spread all the items on the previous state, and then only the currency is what you're going to be updating. So I'm going to be needing the either target or value. I need to set it up as well. So this, and then I say e dot target dot value. Need to pass e. This is going to make sure that it changes the currency. So it's first of all going to set a default value for the currency, and then when I change it, it is now going to dispatch by it is now going to dispatch the new currency I select into the state by changing the value. All right. So let me save it, and then let's try here. I don't mean to type S, I mean to save it. So I'm now going to select, say, Ghana cedis, and notice we have it changing for all the places we have currency. So I'll change to this one, and boom, we have it. Yeah. Let me fix this spacing issue. I just want some small spacing in here. So let me just go to results, and then the principal amount, where we have the principal amount. I think it's this one. I need some small space in here. Yeah, actually I can do it like this. Just add that space there. Alright, cool. So let's also implement this, right? So I want to sync this and this together. So if I change the value for this, I want the corresponding value for this to change, right? So basically the loan term in years, if I change it, I want the corresponding loan term in months to also calculate, right? So I'm going to be using these three methods to do. So basically if I change the value for one, it is going to calculate the value for the other, and then add all the two values into the state. All right. Now this set loan terms accepts two parameters, which is the term in years and then the term in months, which is basically going to be the values I'm calculating from here. Right, and then I'll set the loan term in years and then the loan term in months. First of all, I'm just going to say set loan term in years is going to be the first value I calculate, which is going to be the term in years, and then set loan term in months, which is going to be the term in months, right? So when I change the value for the loan term in years, I want to calculate the corresponding loan term in months and pass all the two values to this function, right? So let's try implementing that. I'm going to replace this loan term in years, so I'm going to replace this one, this with this. So instead of directly setting the state, it is going to call this function, which is going to call this function, and it's going to update the state for the years and then the months. And this is accepting a change event handler, and it's by default a string, so I just have to pass the e. Right? So basically it's going to do it from there. Yeah, I could have added the value directly from here, but yeah, I mean it's still fine. And then I'll copy this, and then loan term in months, replace that as well. Remove the extra bracket, which means I'm using this function as well. So basically I would need to, so this is going to be the value for the years, so I'm just going to say that constant term in years is going to be, the value is going to be a number, the type is going to be a number, right? And then I basically do what I was doing down there, so e dot target the value, then I'm changing that to a number, and then also the corresponding loan term in months is going to be term in months, which is also going to be a number. Alright, so it's going to be just term in years, this one times 12. Alright, yeah, so if it is 4 years, 4 times 12, and it's going to be like the corresponding months, right? And then I can call it set loan terms, and then I'll pass the years and then months. So this is going to update the value for the 2 when I change the when I change the years. Right, it's gonna be the same thing for 100 loan terms in months, so I'll just put this here, but this is rather going to be for this, and then here is going to be for years, and then instead of addition, instead of multiplication, it's rather going to be division, right? And this is going to be the same. So if I save it, it should be working now, because when I click on this, for example, it's going to call this function. Now it's going to calculate the term in years, the term in months, and then it's going to call this set loan term in, it's going to call this set loan terms, and this is going to actually set a state for the two. Right, so note, if I start to click on it, 8 years is going to be 96 months, and if I change this one as well, 24, it's going to be 2 years. Right. Yeah, so that is also working. Okay, so now that all our inputs are working, like the values are being synced across this and this one is also working, the currency is changing. I think it's time to do the actual calculation, right? Calculating like the interest, the total amount, and then the monthly payments, right? I'll create the functions folder, and then I would also create one file in this, so I'll just call it functions.tsx, and then inside these functions I am going to paste this comment in here. Right, this is basically how we are going to be calculating the monthly payment. So I mean, if you go online, you can look at how to calculate the monthly payments of a loan. Basically, this is the general formula. We are going to be using this formula to calculate the monthly payment. So the definition of the various variables in the formula is here, right? So P being the total monthly payment, so it is going to be the result of the monthly payments you're going to be paying monthly. So A here is going to be the principal amount, right? So that is the amount you get here, and then the R is going to be the rate, so it is the periodic interest rate, which is your interest rate divided by 12. So that is how we calculate the R, and then this N is actually the number of months in your loan term, right? So it's the reason why we have these. So we will use the number of months, but when we change it, it is going to calculate the month, so we can still use the number of months. So yeah, using this basically using this formula, you can separate the parts and do the calculation, right? So I'm going to paste the calculate function in here, and I'm going to explain to you. But first of all, I need to import this I values type that I created, and I also need to import the I state type. At the end of the day, it is going to return a structure which is exactly the same as the I state, right? So the principal amount, the interest amount, the total amount, and then monthly payments, which we are going to be using here. That's basically what we are storing in our state, right? Yeah, but in here what I am doing is so the values that are coming, I'm going to be passing it to this function. It is I value, so that's where I get a loan term in months, interest rate, and then a principal. So basically the principal is going to be this, loan term in months is going to be this, and then the interest rate is going to be this value. This is more like the top expression, and this is more like the bottom expression. So I do the top expression calculation using the formula here. I separate some of the parts, like 1 plus the interest rate, then I come and do raised to the power n. As I said, n is the loan term in months, and then I will divide A, which is the principal amount, by the results I get here, and then at the end of the day I will subtract 1 from it. When I get the results here, I will store it in the top expression. I'll come and do the same thing for the bottom expression, which is the other side, calculate this one, raise it to the power n, which is the interest rate in months, multiply it by this, and then at the end of the day I will divide the top expression by the bottom expression, right? And that is going to give me the monthly payments, the total monthly payments, right? Yeah, so you can find this formula online. Let me actually move this one here, bring this one up here. Yeah, so you can find this formula online. You can actually take your time through by looking at the source code to understand maybe how I am doing the calculation. But basically you can see some of these things here: interest rate divided by 100, rate in decimal divided by 12. So the 12 is actually the months. 12 is actually like 1 year, which is a total of 12 months, right? So calculating the interest rate per month. Yeah, so things like that. You could see I'm using maths.power here for the top expression, the bottom expression. It's basically for these raised to the powers, right? Yeah, so I mean, this might be confusing, but yeah, take your time, go through this. It is actually easy to understand. Right. So this is the function I'm going to be using to do my calculation. So I'll close this file because it is done, and then here I will try to call the calculate payment. So calculate payments. Sorry, let me just do undo and just write it out. So calculate payments, I would have to import it from functions, and then it's going to accept these I values. So I need to make sure that I have these I values. How am I going to get them? So these values are going to come from this state, right? So I'm going to say constant values, which is of type I value, and the first one is going to be the principal, second one is going to be the loan term in years, this one is going to be loan term in months, this is going to be the interest rate, and then this is what I'm going to pass here, right? So when I pass this, it is actually going to return the values in the states. That is the values I need for this. So I'm going to destructure those values, and then basically I would say the principal amount, the interest amount, the total amount as well, and then the monthly payments, right? And with that, I can now dispatch these items into the state by calling dispatch. I need to preserve all the values, all the default values. So I would have to pass the previous state, and then I would spread the previous state. So dispatch, have to wrap it in this. Yeah, and then make sure that I need to do dots, 3 dots. So the spelling here is wrong. Okay, and then I need to make sure that I am setting the principal amount, the interest amount, the total amount, and then the monthly payment, right? As simple as this. So when I save it and I click calculate, I should see my values calculated here. Nice. So when I refresh this, it's going to be 0. So I want to calculate when the application starts, I want to calculate the default monthly payment using the initial values. So I'm going to use effect. I'm going to generate that and then make sure it is imported up here. I'm going to get rid of this. It is going to be for the first render, and then I would also say calculate monthly payments, this one, and that should be it. Actually, that should be it. So calculate monthly payment is going to call this calculate payment, and it's going to dispatch these items into the state. So basically it's going to use the values from the local state we are storing here. Yeah, so when I save it, there you go, we have the initial values. If I refresh it, we have that here, and then if I change this, it changes as well, the currency symbol. And then if I change this to 6 years, it calculates the corresponding month as well. And let me reduce the interest rate to 2.5, and then calculation happens, right? So there you go. I mean, this is our simple application. It actually took us longer than we expected. Yeah, but basically I wanted you to understand like some of these concepts I was using, but hopefully you understand the whole concept. I'm gonna link the source code in the description, so if you want to look at the source code, yeah, feel free to use it. You can also leave your comments in the comment section if you don't understand anything, but for now, that is it. That is our loan payment calculator. Thank you for watching this video. I am going to see you in the next video. Peace.